Hey everyone. Today I thought I'd share my recent experience with making clear ice and making ice balls with my ice ball press. I know there are probably more important things in the world to worry about than what shape or what kind of ice is in your drink, but if you're going to drink yourself to sleep every night, it might as well be with a good-looking cocktail. A few months ago, I came across a few videos showing a variety of ways to make clear ice. I'm not professing to be the creator of the process or anything like that. I'm just going to share the one that I settled on. I found it to be really simple, very easy, and so far the results have been great. So the one I landed on was to simply use a Coleman 6-pack cooler, or officially as it's known, the Coleman 5-quart Fliplid personal cooler. Later you'll need a bread knife and a small hammer, and I'd also recommend some cutting gloves to protect your hands when cutting and handling the ice. The one controversy or inconsistency out there seems to be what type of water to use. There's people on some of the videos who are saying you needed to use distilled water or boil your water or use bottled water. I can say that I've been using tap water with no problems. The only issue I could see is if you don't like the taste of your tap water, but you don't need anything special to make the clear ice. Tap water will suffice. Just change it up if you don't like the taste of your tap water. So to get started, what you're going to need is your cooler. Clean it out. Remove the lid. You don't need the lid at all. And we're going to fill it within an inch of the top of the cooler. And we're simply going to place this in the freezer, and we're going to give it 24 hours the first time, just uninterrupted. Let it go for 24 hours. Pull it out and have a look. We're looking for the top 1/4 or 1/3 of that water volume to be frozen clear ice. If you need to add a little bit more time, then go ahead and add some time. If it's that thickness or a little more, then you'll know going forward that 24 hours cuts it. You might need 36 hours or 48 hours. It'll all depend on how cold your freezer is. But start with 24 hours. And then once you've nailed down the time, you just simply repeat that time going forward, and you should always have the same thickness of ice. So what we're doing with this process is we're insulating the water with the cooler on the sides and the bottom, and we're freezing the water from the top down, forcing impurities and air down into the water on the bottom half of the cooler and letting that clear ice form on the top half. So when you do pull it out of the freezer, you're going to see that top bit of clear ice. You can freeze it further, so you end up with one big solid chunk of ice if you want. The problem will be that bottom half will start to get cloudy and just look like really standard ice cube, frozen ice cubes, right? So you won't be able to get the clear ice beyond a certain thickness, probably half of what you've got. After that, it'll just become cloudy. So you're limited to how thick the clear ice will be. So after we pulled it out, you can see here we've got a nice clear layer on top. We've got liquid. You can see the air bubble moving around. What we're going to do is I'm going to flip this over into the sink. I'm going to drain out this water, and I'm going to use the bread knife and just clean up the bottom. As you can see here, we've got this thin ice that had started to form around the cooler and stuff. We're going to cut all this off and run it under a little bit of warm water and shave the bottom down. We want to try to get it as flat as we can, so when it's sitting on the cutting board, it's a lot easier to cut. So when you are ready to cut the ice, make sure you've got your gloves on, you've got your bread knife and your small hammer. As I said before, the cutting gloves are great, not only to protect your hands, but they also help when you're handling the ice. And we're going to put this on the cutting board. Make sure it's nice and even and it's secure, and we're going to score the ice slab to the size of the ice cube that we want. And once we've scored it, use a bread knife. You don't need anything fancier than a bread knife, but preferably a bread knife that's got a nice good serrated edge to it. And once we've scored it, an eighth of an inch or so, you can take the hammer and lightly tap the knife, and that should cut the ice nice and clean. Of course, Today it's not going to do that, and that will happen. You'll get some that cut nice and clean and some that don't, but don't sweat it. We're going to take these pieces that are fairly squared off and rectangular, and we're going to cut those into cubes, and whatever's left over, we'll save those in a separate freezer bag, and you can still use those for drinks. They're perfectly fine. They just don't look as sexy as the nice square cubes. So earlier I mentioned not freezing it too thick. So if you do need a thicker slab, you can see in this picture where I froze the cooler all the way through. And I still got a nice clear layer on that top third or so, and the bottom is basically useless. So I've scored this all the way around, and I'll try to do my best to cut off the cloudy ice on the bottom, and I'll run it under a little bit of hot water just to square off that bottom, and I'll have a thicker clear ice slab now. And I use this to cut into larger cubes to use on the ice ball press, because I need ice cubes that are 2.5 inches or slightly larger, 2.5 to 3 inches square, so that they'll fit into the ice press. So my journey originally started when I was exploring ice ball presses. I had gotten tired of the little silicone ice ball molds. They just weren't working. They were a pain in the butt. And in my research of ice ball presses, I came across clear ice and went down that rabbit hole. And once I kind of figured out how to do the clear ice, circled back to the ice ball press. If you don't know what an ice ball press is, it's two solid pieces of, well, in my case, it's aluminum. It weighs about 5 or 6 pounds, and what happens is you put your ice. It has a mold in the middle, and it varies by the manufacturer. The one I have is about a 2.25 inch, 55 millimeter ice ball. Some of them make diamond shapes, different things, right? Or you can get custom ones made. You put your ice slug into that mold and drop the top onto it, and then the conductive properties of the aluminum basically melt away the excess ice, and you're left with a nice ice sphere in the middle. And it looks really cool. It's relatively quick. Takes about 30 seconds to a minute. If you warm up the ice ball press slightly, don't warm it up too much. You don't want to crack the ice, but if it's just ambient room temperature, it will cool down pretty quick, so it helps to warm it up a little bit. And if it slows down near the end, I find I just take the top off and give it a quick warm rinse and put it back on, and it'll finish it off. Once again, in that minute range. So when it's done, you've got a nice, perfectly formed sphere. You can use regular ice. You don't need to use the clear ice. I just think the clear ice looks super cool. But just a regular 2.5 inch ice cube mold will work as well. And if by all means use the clear ice. But that's been my experience with both. The clear ice is really easy to make. Don't be intimidated by it. And if you're someone who has everything and you want a cool conversation piece and something interesting, then by all means explore the ice ball press. Like I said, I got mine at Cocktail Kingdom. There's lots out there on the internet, so give it a look, and good luck.